The Libertarian Party has had a very consistent, strong-boned, and virtuous philosophy. There's been many great writers and personalities who have forwarded it and have put together a system that aims towards nonviolence and freedom and free markets. Now, some of the more ardent worshippers of the violence of the state call themselves libertarian. You hear it all the time on TV. All of a sudden some guy goes, well, I'm a libertarian. And then you think, no, you're not. These are people who are anything but that. And how does that even happen? Well, it's largely because probably not even 90% of the population, I'm arbitrarily making that figure up, understands what the whole thing even means. Makes a lot of sense because all of the different media outlets are aimed towards two-party rule. And for most of the history of the earth, we've had kings and tyrants and all sorts of oligarchies. We've had all sorts of situations where how the system works is everybody in a particular jurisdiction is forced to have it one way. First of all, if you're living within the confines of a particular border, now these people that run this particular system now enforce it everywhere. Everybody has to be a part of it. If it's socialism, communism, everybody has to do it. No, there's no break from it anywhere. If it's fascism, whatever it is, everybody has to do it. Okay? If it's the current situation where we have a partially collectivist approach, like we do in most of the West, it has to happen everywhere. There's no break anywhere. The beauty of the voluntarist method is it doesn't have a requirement where it has to go everywhere and everybody has to do it. It can just exist in one particular place where the people want it to exist. It wins by example, by proof of how well it works. And hence, it's not easy for it to prevail in systems where everybody is forced to participate in violent systems, in systems where the state violently forces people to adhere to it, everything it says statutorily, to give it money, to look the other way when it does its criminal activity, when it bombs children, when it kidnaps people. It pretty much makes slaves out of everybody. Because first of all, they think they own your body. They think there is such a thing as a controlled substance. Okay, they think that, there is no private property, that they have a right to forcibly tax it, that they have a right to tell you what you can grow on your property, what you can build on your property. The big problem that people have in terms of letting everyone know how well nonviolence works is they need to have it somewhere. They need to have a place where it occurs robustly. This is possible. The libertarians have always had it in their power to demonstrate how it works and to make it work. They've always had a tactical solution that worked. And it doesn't involve channeling everybody's energies and all of their money towards trying to win elections that essentially many of them are unwinnable. If you're running for office, you have to be realistic. You have to say, well, can I really get elected? Every election period, there's lots of people that come along. They're doing it some are doing it for fun, so that's okay. But there's lots of people that pretty much know they're going to not even get 1% of the vote, and yet they run. You say, well, what's the point? What is your point? And if you're talking about a high quality philosophy such as libertarianism, there's got to be a better way. The resources that you have to be more focused. Now, I believe somebody's already come up with this. They came up with a great idea called the Free State Project. And they did this they managed to choose New Hampshire, which I think was a mistake. I understand why they would do that. It was on the eastern seaboard, lots of larger cities, in more industry, very inviting. But I think they would have been done better to go into Wyoming. Wyoming, with a much smaller population. Now, the thing that makes Wyoming even more appealing is there are a lot of small incorporated cities already there. There's places with populations that are pretty small. There was Chugwater has 212 people. Smoot has 195. It was once, at one point, it was only 50 people. And Daniel, 150. A larger place, Story, 828, and various sizes. And then they have, larger places like Cheyenne, Casper, and Laramie. Lots of places that people can go, but somebody can take a small group, buy the property in an incorporated place, and write statutory law if they like. And actually, the beauty of it is that if libertarians would go into such a place and be the majority, what would happen is that they could elect sheriffs and prosecutors and mayors, and they could elect all kinds of people who could carry out and actually effectively have a nonviolent location. They could have a free location. People could bring businesses to such a place. And should Wyoming have a majority of libertarians actively voting, they would get 2 senators. And they would get 1 congressman. Should Google that. Anyway, then, from a position of a state, they could actually submit things to the Supreme Court. They could submit challenges based on the Constitution, and that being that there could be no direct tax, which is not an excise tax. The court system will not hear these arguments if you're an individual proposing it. If you were a state, you could propose it, and they would have to deal with it. And maybe the ramifications of this would be profound across the nation. But what the most important thing would be about such a great idea or process of actually having a state that's free, that's actually non-coercive, is that it would set an example. It would still have the problems of the federal government, that's true, but there would be ways of dealing with this problem that no individual could ever do. And what would happen is, I believe that this would end up being one of the most popular places there would be. People would go there, and it would be very prosperous, and it would work by example. That's what the philosophy of nonviolence would do. Is then a neighboring state, maybe Idaho, maybe the Dakotas. Okay, these places people might go, you know what, I like that. I like freedom. I like nonviolence. This is pretty good. We like the prosperity that comes from this and from not having a kleptocratic state apparatus or large governmental apparatus stealing everything in sight. So it would spread by example, unlike things, as we mentioned, such as fascism and communism and quasi-socialism, quasi-fascism, which force everybody to be stuck with this, be stuck with their methods of doing things. The beauty of the ideal that was present when the nation was founded is that each state was a little laboratory where people could try different ways of doing it. And so you could say, well, if somebody wanted to live in a super collective state, a collectivist state, well, you could go there and just go, I want to be part of the commune. Or you could just go, well, you know what, I love nationalism, I want to go to that state. And then people would say, you know what, I don't want anything to do with that. I want to be an individual. I want to be a man. I want to be someone who is not kept under someone else's thumb. And I just want to exist and make choices for myself and bear the consequences. And so, with 50 states all having different approaches, then people could go to these different places. Then it could happen at the county level. It could happen at the town and city level. It could happen in the neighborhood level. Where you chose might be a place where everybody else would want to go. And it would win by example. And this is one of the things that libertarianism would be helped by doing, is to start being practical and actually achieving success, being elected in places where you're going to be elected, understanding the practical reality of politics. And the practical reality of politics is you have to assess what's going on accurately. You have to say, well, can I win this race? Somebody's behind, somebody's not. And then somebody has to decide, well, what is it that I have to do to close that gap or maintain my lead? And it's about success. It's about making it happen. The Free State Project in Wyoming, in a small place, with people going there, is a great way to achieve this. Now, there are other things. So let's say people donate their money to the Libertarian Party, and they donate money because they like the cause, they want to move this forward. How about they take half that money and instead take the money and not donate it, but invest in a business that is libertarian in nature? Let's say you would have a town and call it, let's say it's in Daniel, Wyoming. Okay, so you build that business, and then there's a lot of people there that are similar in nature, and that business makes money. Now, the person that was donating the money actually makes a profit on what they did. It's not just burning money up or sending it into space like happens. Somebody might say, well, the American Party or the Green Party donate money. You send them the money, oh, that disappeared. It's gone. And what did you tangibly get from it? I don't know. Well, by doing it this way, you might make a profit, and you'll move forward these great ideas. So, and there's a lot more to it. There's a lot of really intelligent people who have formulated lots of good plans and lots of good analyses about what it takes to be successful politically. And it's all right there. You can do it. Let's demonstrate how good nonviolent approaches are. If something is great, if a program or a system is great, then it can be voluntary. If you must force somebody to do something at gunpoint, it's probably not a good idea. Thank you, and good luck.